Almost always, the life insurance company will pay out the money to a beneficiary that's listed on the policy. But there are fringe cases where a judge can send this money to somebody else. In this video, we'll go through some of those cases where the judge can potentially contest the beneficiary and where the money is actually going to go to. So the first way a beneficiary can be challenged is if the policyholder changed the beneficiary while they were not of sound mind. So think about if they had a serious illness, or maybe their onset of dementia, or heavily medicated during that time. If you can prove that, you can potentially challenge the beneficiary there if there is a change while that person was under that situation. Another way is if the policyholder was in a vulnerable state and they were manipulated or coerced by a caregiver, maybe like a new partner or something like that, to change who's on the beneficiary form. This will happen to elderly people, but usually it's anyone who's very vulnerable. Under those conditions, you can also challenge the beneficiary. Another way that you can challenge it is if the beneficiary form was signed, if the change was made under fraud or forgery. So if somebody else signed that beneficiary paper, and you can prove that, then that can be a grounds to actually have it revoked and have the money not go towards the beneficiary listed. Conversely, if the paperwork was supposed to be filed but never finished, or a form wasn't signed, or it was done wrong, then improper filings can definitely make an intended change to not be counted when the money is actually dispersed to the beneficiary. So if you're seeing a theme here, a lot of these are very messy, they're kind of gray area. If you're really going to challenge the beneficiary of a life insurance policy, it's going to be pretty difficult. I mean, you're going to have to prove that one of these things was happening or all of them were happening. And that's going to be very difficult. You're going to have to contact an attorney and, take this to court essentially to show the paperwork that something, amiss was happening. So for the most part, really get it right on your life insurance policies, who the beneficiary is supposed to be. Update it regularly just to make sure that it can't be contested, later down the road. Or if there's going to be some kind of life event that happens to you, definitely revisit your life insurance policy so that this part of your policy can get updated and there's no issues. If something were to happen to you, you don't create a legal mess where others, are going to have to find their way through it. Now, in a separate sense, there's another group of situations where the law can benefit you and you may not have to do anything. For example, in a divorce, most states, not all, they will remove your ex-spouse from your beneficiary form. But you definitely can't rely on this because sometimes it won't get filed or it won't get followed up through. And if anything were to happen, it could send that money back to your ex-spouse instead of maybe to somebody else that you had intended that money for. So there are instances where the law can help you. Another one is the Slayer rule. If a beneficiary were to harm or maim the policyholder, then the judge will revoke that money. It won't go to the beneficiary in that situation and remove the beneficiary as a listed beneficiary under the insurance company. And then in some states where it could be considered community property, where if, for example, you have a spouse and they're not listed as a beneficiary, but the money used to pay the life insurance premium was coming from a joint account with this spouse. In that situation, the spouse, even though they're not listed as a beneficiary, could potentially challenge where the money goes to and get part of the death benefit. But it's not in all states. It's in some states where this can hold true. Another thing that the courts can do is they can actually appoint a court-ordered beneficiary, which means that, let's say you had a divorce, the court could still mandate that ex-spouse still be kept on as a beneficiary after you guys split and the divorce is final, in order to protect maybe some child support that is going to be owed to the other partner. So the court can get involved in these cases even after divorce. You can be mandated to keep a ex-spouse as a beneficiary on your form to have part of the money go to them as well. Now, for your parents out there, this is something super important to be aware about. If you name your child as a beneficiary and your child is under the age of 18 at the time if you were to pass away, the insurance company will not disperse the death benefit to that child. So now you're going to allow the courts to get involved quite a bit. What actually happens? Well, First off, if you were to pass away and your child is named as the beneficiary, the money will not get dispersed to them. The money will first off get tied up in the court system, where the court will decide and appoint a legal guardian or custodian for the money. Now, once your child does turn the age of 18, whether they're ready or not to receive all that money, they'll get that money then. So in this circumstance, it's really important. Don't name your juvenile child as the beneficiary. You will want to really focus on working on a will or a trust or something. You know, talk with an estate planner to set the details for this, where the money gets paid out to an estate or a guardian instead of your child. So it's really important to get that set up so that your wishes are properly honored when it comes down to who the money actually goes to. Don't list your juvenile child as the beneficiary. It's probably one of the most important things to keep in mind, and the worst mistake that a parent can make for their child. So hopefully this video gave you some insight on the laws around beneficiaries and who gets money and how to contest it and whatnot. I'm a licensed agent. I'm not an attorney. So if you have any questions that an attorney would be best suited to ask them. Don't ask me. I probably wouldn't be able to help you there. But hopefully you like this video. If you have any further questions, just put them down below. And thanks you for your time.